Hi everyone, sorry it's been a while since I last made a video. It's basically been because I had my last few months of uni and I really wanted to concentrate on that first before making any videos and stuff like that. So I'm finished now and I don't really know what I'm going to make a video about, to be honest. I just felt like I'd just sit here and have a chit chat to myself about anything. But I got all dressed up and now I feel like making a video. And I got dressed up because I bought a dress from Bodyline, but I can't remember the name or the number, should I say. But I'll post it in the description below. And I got it in white because I have no white dresses. And it looks like this. Can't really see, but yeah. I feel really bridal in it. But white could go with anything, and I have a blue blouse, that one I got from Miss Selfridge, which is in one of my other videos, and it's got all like pearls and stuff on the collar, so I could do white and blue colourway, I could do pink and white colourway, I could do gold and white colourway. I can do anything with this dress, so, and it's really like sweet but classic, and I like that idea. So yes. What shall I talk about? Well, I feel like there's a lot of confidence in Lolita videos, and you know, wearing Lolita out in public and blah 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 blah. But I'm gonna go and make another one because I love dressing up, and you know, I feel great sitting in it right now, but I know if I walked outside that door I wouldn't feel as good as I do now. I think when you're wearing Lolita you're a lot more aware of the people around you, and I think now I've come to ignore it. I don't notice it as much, but sometimes I am really aware of like people in the corner of my eye, and you know, I'm always saying to myself, like, you know, the world doesn't revolve around you, not everyone is interested in you, and I don't know, it makes me feel quite self-centered if I'm always like, oh, they're talking about me, oh, they're looking at me, but sometimes, you know, it is true, and I don't really care about the stares so much anymore. I mean, when I was younger, I never used to care whatsoever. But I think it's different when you're younger. You know, when you're like 14, back then I did not care at all what anyone had to say about me. But it was to the point where even if it was someone who I cared about, like a friend or my family, I didn't care what they had to say. But you know, as you grow up, obviously you do care, and it's a normal thing, I guess. You know, as much as people say, oh, just don't care what other people think, and I think if you're gonna be wearing Lolita, you have to be that kind of person. But there's always days where you are going to care, even if they are strangers. It's just, you know, you just want to get on with whatever you're doing, and when people are just constantly staring at you and you can feel it, it just meh. It just meh, whatever that means. But for me it really depends on like how I feel that day. You know, if you wake up and you feel not so confident in yourself and you can't be bothered to deal with people, because I know there's days where I can't be bothered to answer people's questions, you know, like, what's this, what's it for, what's that, oh, where'd you get your clothes, where are you going? Even if they're saying it really nicely, there's just some days where I can't be bothered to repeat myself 100 times, and if anyone knows me, they know that I hate repeating myself. Like, I get really frustrated, and I know it's not their fault, they don't know that 5 other people have asked me the same questions, but there's just some days where I just want to, you know, just want to go, I've got something to do, I need to go do it, and you know, so I'll dress down. But there's days where, you know, I meet up with friends who are also dressed up like this, and I kind of have to put myself in that confident mood, which sounds a little bit strange. But yeah, basically, I just think if you feel confident that day and, you know, you don't really give a damn, then go for it and wear Lolita. You know, there's obviously a time and a place to wear Lolita, and I don't think a lot of people stress that. You know, they just say, wear whatever you like, but there's just, I would never wear Lolita to, say, a pub. It's, or like with my school friends, or with my friends who are quite shy, or the ones that kind of are very self-conscious and very self-aware of people around them, you know. I don't want them to feel, not embarrassed to walk with me, but, you know, people will be looking, and then people will be looking at them as well, and they're not used to that sort of reaction, you know, that they're used to just walking down the street and no one bothers and everyone minds their business. So I think you need to be quite kind of cautious about that as well, not just thinking about yourself, but who you're seeing that day and where you're going, you know. I think wearing Lolita to a park is quite nice, because I've been quite a few times to meetups and things where we wear Lolita. I think the only time I really wear Lolita is at Japanese events and at meetups, and sometimes to like family meals, because I feel a lot safer with my family. And I know like all of my family are quite accepting of it, and I'll wear Lolita with my boyfriend as well. If I'm walking around London, I mainly go to London and wear Lolita. I'm not sure why, because there's obviously a lot more people there and it's a bit more diverse, but that's also sometimes a bad thing, I think. You know, you never know what kind of person you're going to come across, and there's certain parts of London that I wouldn't wear Lolita to, but when I'm with him, I mean, my boyfriend is over 6 foot, so I just feel a lot more safer. I wouldn't walk around in Lolita all by myself. I always make sure that you're in a group, and I know that sounds really horrible to say, and maybe it's different for everyone. It really depends on your area, but for me, I wouldn't mind walking around my hometown in Lolita because it's very quiet. There's not really many people walking around. You know, there's probably people that I'll bump into here, and they all pretty much know that I dress this way. I used to dress up for school. Not dress up. I never wore Lolita to school because it's not really appropriate. But I would wear other styles. I used to wear Fairy K a lot to school, and all the teachers really liked it. I think it really depends. For me, my biggest, what's the word? The biggest reason, or the main thing that I worry about is my safety, because certain things do attract certain attention. And it's true, it shouldn't be that way, but it is. That is how it is. And you know, there's certain parts of England or certain parts of London where it's not that safe. There's certain people that you'll attract, and it can happen anyway. It could even happen in my hometown. I could get harassed, but you know, there's other places where it's more likely. And I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, like, oh, you know, but people do think that way, and that's kind of a sad thing. You know, they'll say, well, you dressed up this way, so you should expect harassment, and you should expect us to take the piss out of you. Or it's the same with girls that wear very skimpy outfits. You know, you dressed that way, you made a conscious decision, so you should expect to be harassed and sexually assaulted, which is complete shit. But unfortunately, that's the way it is, and it shouldn't be that way. But there's a lot of dodgy people out there. So I would always say, think about your safety as well. You know, don't walk around Lolita when it's late or on your own. I mean, sometimes you can't help it. If you've got to travel back home from a meetup, you know, there's not really much else you can do. Sometimes I take spare clothes with me, but you know, I don't have a bag big enough to fit this dress in and all these petticoats. So that's another thing to consider, really. But yeah, or just make sure that there's someone to take you home. I mean, you know, just going on one train by yourself to get back home, usually it's not really a problem. It's usually when I have to walk or I have a long way to travel by myself. If it's just one train and then I meet, say, a family member at the other end, then I just feel a bit more safer. It's just there's more you need to think about, I think, when you're wearing Lolita. Yeah, it's kind of sad that people make you feel that way. I don't know about anyone else, but I definitely feel a bit more conscious about my safety. You know, I don't want to. I mean, it sounds really ridiculous, and I don't want to attract attention when I'm wearing this. But yeah, that's not my main goal. A lot of people think that people wearing Jfashion, you know, oh, it's for attention. And maybe some people are, you know, maybe some people want that attention and say, hey, look at me. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, if you feel fabulous, you want to show it off. And, you know, I mean, I feel fabulous right now wearing this. But sometimes you don't get the attention that you are intending. And I'm not saying when I wear Lolita I want attention, but it will attract attention because it's not something that someone sees every day. And you know, sometimes you get really lovely comments, and they're mainly from children, like mainly little girls, or older ladies, or even people who are like my mum's age will come up and say, oh, you look really lovely. And I think it's mainly because it's quite refreshing. It's not something that you see a girl of this age wearing, really. Some people think it's gross. They'll be like, oh, you know, you look like a child. But I mean, I have never seen it. Honestly, I can honestly say I've never seen a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old wearing Lolita. I never, you know, when do you see a little girl wearing petticoats and, you know, wrist cuffs and, okay, maybe big bows in their hair and things like that, but that's usually just when they dress up. Even then, I've never seen a little girl wearing a petticoat. And I just think, well, you know what, if you think that I'm trying to attract paedophiles, then fair enough, I guess. I can kind of see where they're coming from, because I think in England and in America there's this whole stigma against old men, and, you know, anyone that looks at you funny, oh, they're a paedophile, or anyone that just looks at a child, you know, straight away. But yeah, I mean, I don't feel any less of myself when I'm wearing these dresses. I don't feel any younger. I don't feel, you know, my brain doesn't change when I put these clothes on. I'm not going to suddenly pretend to be a 13-year-old or or something like that. I'm still me. I still have the same morals. I still have the same views and opinions. And, you know, some people say that when you wear Lolita you feel more polite. Sometimes I feel more aggressive. Especially when it depends on the day. You know, if loads of people are saying nasty things, then there's always that temptation to say something back. But most times I blank it. As hard as it is sometimes, I just think, this person's not worth my time. You know, I'm standing with them for 5 seconds on the train and they're saying something to me. I'm not going to waste my time and explain everything to them, because then I'll be explaining myself 100 times if that many people are insulting me that day. So there's really no point. There's no point in getting yourself worked up. And I know that there's some comments that can really upset you, but at the end of the day, you know, they are a stranger to you. And I know that there's some people whose own friends or their own family will say really nasty things to them. But I just think at the end of the day, you know, if it makes you feel happy, that's the main reason why people wear Japanese fashion or Jfashion. you know, it makes you feel happy. I don't know one person who doesn't feel happy wearing Japanese fashion. Well, I mean, I don't know anyone that currently wears it that would say, oh, I feel really unhappy wearing these clothes. It's, you know, and I think a lot of people that do wear Japanese fashion, they're very creative individuals. And it's just an outlet, I guess. Why is it that, you know, letting your creativity out on a canvas, you know, painting or drawing is completely acceptable, but using your own self as a canvas, there's like a stigma attached to that, or, you know, people ridicule you. I think it's mainly because people make assumptions based on what you're wearing, and usually you can tell what a person is like by what they choose to wear. And when you see something that's so different or so unique and something that you've never ever witnessed in real life, you just generally think, where the hell would they have got that? Why the hell would they wear that? They must be weird. But mainly it's just because that person is creative and they enjoy different things. You know, I mean, I also wear high street fashion. I wear clothes from the high street. I mean, this top here I got for about £4 on eBay. So, but yeah, I do think there is definitely time and place for Lolita. There's certain friends I definitely wouldn't wear it around. I used to, and I learnt from that mistake. You know, and they were kind enough not to say anything, but I could tell by their face, you know, that they felt uncomfortable. There was like a group of kids trying to harass me, and I could tell she was feeling uncomfortable. She's not used to confrontation, and I never wore it around her again. So just be aware of your friends and where you're going as well. You know, I think wearing Lolita to weddings is kind of strange as well. It depends on the dress, unless it's like a chiffon style dress, but I think ones with really out there prints, like just really what kind of colours, you know, just big prints, they don't really look right at a wedding. But then that's really hypocritical of me, because 2 years ago I wore Lolita to a wedding. But it actually looked okay because I didn't wear all the blouse and the socks, it was just the dress on its own. So I think it can work, and you can wear Lolita dresses to prom as well. But again, it really depends on the style. You know, wearing Lolita to job interviews, things like that. I think you should keep your interests and your work completely separate. There's some people that will turn up, you know, all out and just you know, saying, well, this is me, who cares what other people think. But there is a time where you really do need to care about what people think, especially if that person could be your future employer. You know, you don't want them to assume things about you. I mean, that's why people turn up all dressed in, say, like a blazer or a nice shirt, a nice pencil skirt, because you look presentable. And I'm not saying that Lolita isn't presentable, because I think it's a very elegant kind of fashion, but it's too much, and it's just not appropriate really for jobs. I know there's some people who try to turn up with all the big Garo makeup to work, and it really depends on where you work. If they're okay with that, if you're working in quite a creative field, or say, I know that there's a store called Lush, and they prefer people who are very colourful. So if you had dyed hair and you had a lot of makeup and colourful clothes, they would be more likely to hire you. Or say Cyberdog, for instance, there's a specific look that they go for, but majority of places, you know, if it's not really a creative job, then it's not really what they're looking for. But I mean, I have dyed hair, I have my fringe pink, And there's some places, you know, I will turn up to the interview. I'm not going to dye my fringe just for the interview because the rest of my hair is brown. So I always mention, you know, if there's a problem with my hair colour, I can dye over it, or I could even just wear a wig to work and they'd never know, would they? So if you really don't want to change certain aspects of yourself, you know, like you've spent a fortune dyeing all of your hair multicolours, then, you know, turn up to the interview in a wig. I just think there is definitely a time and a place to wear things, and it's taken me a long time to figure out when and where is appropriate. So yeah, just don't make the same mistakes that I did, really. I mean, there's times where I've just been like, oh, it doesn't matter, this is me, this is what I want to wear, why should they judge me? But I do think some people just tend to just focus on what you're wearing and they won't get to know who you are. And I know that's not the kind of people that you want to be around, but it's, say if I want to make a good impression on, say, my friend's friend or something like that, or I don't know, just there's some people who you want to give them a good impression, and I feel like I want to get to know them first, and then if I feel that they are a nice person and that they're accepting, then I'll start dressing up. But if they're not an accepting person, you know, most times they're not really a nice person. It's not really someone that I want to know. So yeah, those are just a few things to consider when you're wearing Lolita. Just don't wear Lolita to work. I mean, why would you anyway? You know, I never wore Lolita to uni. The only time I did was right at the end of the year when we had our end of year exhibition, and my work was about fashion, so I dressed up for it. But I never wore it to the studios because it's dirty in there, and bleh, I don't want my clothes to get ruined. And I don't know, most times it just wasn't really appropriate. And getting up early, I didn't really want to get up even earlier to do all the makeup, so I was like, nah, jeans and a top. But it feels really good now to dress up, because I couldn't for ages at uni because we were setting up the exhibition and it was just really messy and horrible, and I had to wear really gross clothes. Now I feel all pretty again. So I hope that was helpful. I didn't have a structure to that video at all. I just kind of went off on all different tangents, but hopefully I made myself clear. Okay, and I will see you next video, which will hopefully be my room tour video. Sorry, I think I've got a bit of hay fever. Yeah, it will be my room tour video. I've finally moved back home, so all my stuff is here, but I have a shelf to fix. So yeah, and it looks a bit gross at the moment, so I don't really want to show that. So once that shelf is all up and tidy and nice, I will give you a tour of my room, which a few people have been asking for. There, yes, I will see you next video. Bye. Why is it not stopping?